Hey everybody, I am Cinnamon Cooney, your Art Sherpa, and I would like to invite you today to come join me to learn how to paint this gorgeous ship in a storm with crashing waves. I'm going to explain every part of this project to you step by step. To help me do that is my husband John.
Hey guys.
He makes sure you don't miss out on any technique or color mix by keeping those cameras really focused on the project, by zooming in so you can see every part of the action, making that easier for you to create this for yourself at home. Now, you can do just this gorgeous, amazing pirate ship, and that is completely okay. But this is part of a 30-day painting program, and the goal of that program is to actually help you build all the skills and techniques to make this painting as simple as possible for you. So whether you're coming in just to join me today for this fabulous painting, or hopefully I've convinced you to join me for all 30, I need you to get your paint, get your brushes, come back and meet me at the easel right now. We're going to paint this. Today's color palette is pretty full. It's the Oxazine Purple, Ultramarine Blue, Mars Black, Phthalo Blue, Phthalo Green, Burnt Sienna, Cad Red Medium, Quinacridone Magenta, Naples Yellow Light, Cad Yellow Medium, and Titanium White. Now, the first thing that we're going to do here is we're going to paint the entire 8x8 canvas with a colored ground, and that's going to be a mix of a little bit of black and our phthalo blue. I'm going to take my big number 30 brush, get a little black on there and some blue, and I'm going to paint everything this dark blue and black color. Once you have your entire surface painted and it's dry, you can begin laying in the grid. Now, how our grid works is that I'm going to take a T-square, which is a type of ruler that gives me straight lines, and I'm going to measure every inch along the surface of the canvas. Then I'm going to make vertical and horizontal lines. That's going to give me a 1 inch by 1 inch grid. When that's done, I number from left to right across the top 1 through 8. And then I number 1 through 8 on the side from top to bottom. This will create a match to my reference grid and allow me to accurately duplicate the image onto my surface from my reference. As soon as your canvas is laid out and ready for the transfer, how you use this is you look at each individual square, not the total image. So if I'm going to draw something in, I would come into the square and look at what I can see in that square and then duplicate what I see only in that square. You do that through the whole image, working the contour lines, I'm doing the clouds right now, of the image until you have duplicated what you have. So when you have the contour lines of your major objects, waves, and clouds transferred on to your surface, you will have completed step 1. In an image like this, I like to paint the furthest objects back. I know I'm going to lose some of the detail of my boat. I'm going to keep as much of it as I can as I go forward painting, but I've got to get the sky in before I really start working in my ocean, because some of the ocean is splashing up and layered over our distant horizon line in our sky. So we really need to work that out. I'm going to do all of this with my number 8 Cambridge. Basically, you're looking for a bright with hog bristles and synthetic bristles mixed together. So it's sort of stiff and scumbly and scratchy and awesome in that way. Now we're going to do some interesting, fun things. I'm going to take a little of my ultramarine blue and my phthalo blue. I'm going to mix them together and get some white into that. And I need a mildly, I'm going to put some moisture on my paint today. Moisture on my paint. That's just water, guys. That's not anything crazy or interesting or special. And I'm going to take this light sky color. I'm going to come in and sort of really be aware of the keyhole opening in the sky. It sort of shows us the sun is going to come out tomorrow kind of optimism that the sky has. So it's a storm, but it's also maybe a storm clearing. It's fun to use these colors. The blue being underneath is really useful. I am taking the corner of my brush and I do scumble with that, so which is that sort of scratching and moving around motion. It's the brush is a little bit dry, the paint isn't particularly wet, and it gives me very soft edges. Once I have those soft edges, I'm going to come get a little of my Naples yellow light and my titanium white, making a perhaps lighter little area.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll bring some of that right here at the side, more into my blue. And let's give ourselves a few little clouds that are peeking through.
Yeah.
Because they're much friendlier. They're not as stormy, but they are here. And I can bring some of this down into that space. I think it's really enjoyable. I've added a little bit there. If you need to come in and soften anything, you can just come with a clean, damp brush. And again, use the corner softening any of those clouds that you need working there. Right? So that's not too bad. We're pretty good there. Let's add a few more layers of our skies. It's going to come back. Now there's a really fun layer of sort of light that comes around it. I'm going to take my Naples yellow on a really clean brush. I got to rinse that out. I don't want any green on that. I'm going to take a little of my Naples yellow mixed with my cad yellow, kind of a half tone, and a lot of titanium white. And we're going to come into here on the corner again and paint kind of a really fun little halo of dramatic sky. And I like to sometimes kind of scratch this back a little bit about directionality and the way the wind blows, as they say. Because you know the wind do blow.
It does.
It does. It blows really well. And that's looking pretty good, right? Little crazy random shapes. Always good. Come in maybe with a little bit of a lighter value there on some of it. So even those are kind of highlighted. Look at that. Just a little bit of scratchy, fluffy cloud resistance.
Looks really good.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. This is one of my very favorite skies. And hopefully, at this point, everybody's sort of ready for this. Like we've kind of covered these skills, right? These challenges as we go. Now, as I'm going to come forward, I'm going to go ahead and maybe get a little bit of this color into that mix. And I'll pull a little more of my ultramarine in as I come forward. And creating more of a storm. More of a storm. A little more storm right there. We'll be layering, so don't you worry. That's looking pretty good. We're starting to build in that sky. Now let's call this, even though we've just started it, step 2. So we take in this very complicated sky in smaller bites. Does that sound great?
It totally sounds good.
All right, so let's call it step 2. Now I'm going to start working the stormier side of my sky. These are deeper colors. They're more grayed out. They're not as bright and saturated as what's happening over here. And I think that they're a lot of fun. I'm going to take a little of my Doc's purple and some of my burnt sienna. And you can see it gives me a very deep, stormy little violet color. Just finding that perfect little range. Because, dark and stormy night.
I love that sky. It's looking really good.
Yeah, it's just, when it comes out, it's just beautiful. I'll come around my ship a little carefully. I'll have to put my little mask back in. But what are you going to do? You can always come in, get into your ultramarine. Does some interesting stuff when you do. Now as I'm coming down, I can get more into my ultramarine, which will deepen it. And you'll notice that each time I bring these little circles in, there's like a little implied cloud bank that starts to happen and take off.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to lose some of the tops of my waves. I'll definitely have to come back with my reference to maybe get back into those. I'm going to add some of this right here again, sort of deep and stormy violet. Let's bring it around so that these colors continue. Looking pretty good. I'll rinse out. I'm going to take a little of my phthalo blue and my burnt sienna, and together they make a very lovely stormy color. I'm going to start to add these up here. I think I do want it deeper than that, so let's get a little more of the brown. Ah, there we go. A little more storm. Sometimes you want to find a little more storm in your storm. And I'm going to go ahead and get a little brown and green in there. I know that seems like a lot, but I'm making storm colors. And storm colors are deeper and richer. Very nice. Little phthalo blue. I'm not even rinsing out. And a little Mars black. Everything's still kind of in here. You can see I'll start to push in some of this darker. Maybe pull it up here. Kind of like a darker cloud body. They're looking pretty good. And you can always pull in some dark color into one of your other clouds to just give dimensionality. So what we're trying to do here is give dimensionality to these spaces. As I come down, I'm going to be a lot more blue-black. Quite dark down here. I mean, quite dark. And you can see how sometimes, you know, starting out with the colors and everything out, but also the lines of the clouds can be exceedingly helpful.
Mm-hmm. Right into my blue because I want it to be quite dark. Don't want to lose my little space here. So we have the beginnings of some forms, right? But there's a lot more that has to happen here. We need to be able to layer these quite well. So I'm also going to get into some of my other colors. Like one of my other colors will be a little of my ultramarine blue and my phthalo green. And let's take a little of that color, some places here. It can help to add some white. Some. You don't want to get too much. And I'm still in the corner of my brush. I'm not making cotton balls. I'm painting and shading out some interesting, fascinating little shapes. You know, sometimes my brush is turning in my hand, getting me fresh paint. If you're wondering, like, where does all this paint come from? Well, sometimes when we're going, get a little of our interesting color here, a little of our
Naples yellow light, it gives us again another bit of storm. Just working that out. You can easily come back and darken anything that you want. A little more Naples yellow. The trick will be to create little banks of clouds. A little of that there. They're kind of fun always. A little bit of cloud bank. I'm going to come back with a fairly clean brush. Make sure that the edges that I have, that's a nice black bank,
It really is.
are very clear. A little cloud swarm up there. Little fields and along the water's edge, which is quite dark. Everything over here is quite dark. Also want to pull a little darkness in. Take it a minute. I'm enjoying the view. And of course, sometimes painting around the side a little bit to talk about what's going on. Rinsing out thoroughly. Clean water is going to be a big deal on this.
Mm-hmm.
Let's call this 3 because these little events, they take a minute from you, right? We're kind of putting all of our skills together and really working this out. So taking it into smaller bites will really help you see what you've gathered up. So come back and we'll continue to do some more clouds. As we continue on, we're going to start putting in some of our brighter side of the sky because we have to allow different sides of it to sort of rest before we get even more of the crazy drama detail in there. I'm going to take a little of my, just a smidge of my cad red and my cad yellow. You can, it's still very much a yellow, but it has a slight orange cast to it. And we're going to come here and wiggling on the edge of the brush, come right over and start to weave in some of this little drama, sir.
That's looking pretty good, though.
Yeah. Fill this in. We've got more to put over it, but we're going to give it a base. And because it's a stormy day, it's kind of okay that underneath there's blue. Normally you'd want something kind of different, but for this particular one, it's like, oh, well, that worked out kind of super well. Yay. I'm going to get right into my quinacridone. And I'm going to grab some of my Naples yellow light. And we're going to do some of these mixes around. They're very interesting little. I think it's fun sometimes to come almost on the edge of the brush there. You can see making little wispies of. What? What is that? I don't know. Let's find out. And again, keep your bristle brushes not too wet. You don't want them to get too wet. You can always add white into what you've got going on. You can see here. You know, I'll have to definitely get some darker values in there. And I know I've got a wave to splash up. I don't want to lose all the design on my ship because I really need it. Maybe a little pink up here. Oh, that was fun. It can come around the side. And then what's really interesting is I can take this and get just a smidge, all the colors that I have in it, yes, like right, and then get some white. Maybe even a little more Naples yellow, because the Naples yellow sort of tones down the purple, the Doc's purple.
Yeah.
And lets me create this really wonderful lavender. You can see I'm working the corner, pushing that paint in, and that's creating that wonderful sort of cloud. So I want that to wrap around well. I'm like, wrap around! And sometimes I've got to make sure that I'm just not carrying too much. Oh, isn't that wonderful? Put a little highlight on this little fellow. We'll talk about these more. There's a cool effect where we put sort of the backlighting on our surfaces, and that's kind of wonderful. I also like to take some of this, you know, right here. Some interesting stuff, and I can bring some this interesting color here. Eyes it through. And I think that's always like crazy how we'll go back and forth across the two clouds spaces, kind of refining those. I want a little more of my yellow and perhaps some of my white into here. It was fascinating to blend on canvas and see where we can get. Now, I still need some lighter kind of carry around clouds that are going on there. So let's get our phthalo blue here and a little of our white. And then I'm going to get back into my Naples yellow. Because what I'm trying to do is talk a little bit about the here. Yes, it's a storm, but this sky would still be lightened, if that makes sense to everybody. Because the keyhole. I don't want to lose that, and so that's why I'm coming back. Just making sure that this side is also somewhat... Oh, that was fun taking that back in. Every time you do it, you just get playful. I'm like, oh, I feel very playful there.
Looks really nice.
It's just, I just enjoy it. A little spot. Piece out these little bits of joy. Just play with that light Naples yellow and white into that initial mix. Make this a more interesting cloud bank. That's the other thing to think about is you got to make sure your little cloud banks are sort of interesting intrinsically. Otherwise, it's sort of problematic. All right. So this is sort of like that first place in our sky. I've got a little more refinement to do, but I really want it to be here before I try to piece out anything else and refine any of these clouds anymore. So our sky is pretty close, but it needs a little more. It's kind of roughly conceived, John. So we do want to paint loose. We do want to be relaxed, but it's also important that as I'm going forward, we think about the the finished and resolved element of this guy. So I'm going to take a little of my lightest color. I'm on the corner of my brush, and I'm going to pull some sweeping banks backwards. Come underneath here. Sweeping banks. Just a few of those. It's fun stuff. Even over here, we say, hey, this could be happening. I also maybe want to take a little, I'll get a little of my peach into this, but it's a very light color, if you can see. Take a little bit of that lightness here, creating maybe something that's dramatic there. Okay, we're getting some light. Maybe a little more peach. Naples yellow. Work that back in. Make sure that my purple is interesting. I'm going to make sure my purple shape is interesting. I wasn't feeling my purple shape was super interesting. So I'm going to make my purple shape interesting. And you think to yourself, well, how interesting does a purple shape need to be? Very interesting. Otherwise, why? Blend some yellow back in. And also kind of enforce that backwards cloud. It's so light. We'll lose that. A little bit of that lightness. Little sweepy strokes. So pretty good. Pretty okay. Got some stuff happening here. Now, over on this side, I'm going to want some elements of what I have here. I'm going to take a little bit of my red and yellow, and interestingly enough, some of my brown. A little more brown. There we go. So it's like an orange, Naples yellow, and brown, right? Yeah, some color carried over here, for sure. On my little corner, for sure. But it's just muted, isn't it? Let me pull some of this in here. Who expected that? Nobody!
Nobody expects a orange cloud.
Nobody expects any of the orange clouds to come in, but it begins to build up just the most dramatic little sky. And it really changes the nature of how the scene with the boat in such a strong wave is going to feel. Once we have everything in, we have a very important job we must do. We're going to take our number 4 round, because we like it. And we're going to pull out a lot of white into our number 4 round. And then I'm going to grab what is essentially my, darkest sky color. But I'm going to lighten it a bunch. And then we're going to come along here. And here's the trick. It's easy. You can do it with the signature brush, but I'm going to do it with the 4, and then I'm going to do it with the signature brush so you guys can see you can do both. Or maybe I'll just do this because this is working just fine. Come along the top of this, and I find its outer little aspect. It comes down here every time I have a different little value that I can speak to. I do. And I'm outlining those. Can you see those?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe right here, there should definitely be something happening here. This is an extraordinary bit of kit. Look at that one. That's lovely. Starting to look like it's got those little halos. And we like halos. And sometimes we'll get a little bit of our yellow and our purple together. And quite a lot of white. It's almost like a lavender. We're going to want to, I'm not resting my hand on wet paint, outline that little bit of cloud. The trick for me is making sure I get enough water on my brush for it to come off the tip. And you know you've got this one over here that you can speak to. Starting to piece those dramatic, exciting parts out. And coming up, I can always add a little more white to it and lighten it. A little more. Anywhere I've got to speak to that sort of blue-green. But when I get into my yellows, like when I get into here, I need to get more into a yellow. All right. So all the rest is really going to be kind of like a Naples yellow, head yellow, lots of white thinned mix. Because we'll want to thin it. So I've just thinned it with water, and we're going to come in and start to catch for sure. Oh, what's happening here? And you can see you can create that little halo anywhere you want to talk about a specific little cloud bank, like we're about to do right here. It's so much fun. Doesn't it look fun?
It's amazing.
It's just such a joy. And just come around. And this is going to be prevalent throughout this piece. We're going to enjoy this throughout this whole piece. I'm going to continue. Sometimes I will get some of the white and just continue it down through like little areas, even though this is a very light element. And then we can even define little banks there. You can always get more yellow, more white, less white. Sit there and say, oh, well, that would be defined as something. And we can speak to these little edges. Just speak to the little edges. There we go. And sort of this one last, we're going to get right into, and I just took my yellow right into the purple. I'm not even, I'm just like, yep, this is what's happening here. Look at that. We've just done that dramatic ship sky.
Mm.
You guys like thrilled with that?
I think it looks great.
It's like a lot going on, but hey,
Yeah.
there's a lot going on.
It's a big
Anywhere
sky.
you want to come in and, make sure that you've got nice, like where stuff is super light, you can still always do that. Make sure that those edges are defined with white where you need to. So super doable. When we come back, we're going to start putting in the ship and the back of the sea. So we're going to start painting in some of the bases of the ship. I think it's important to get some of the deep values going. So I'm going to take a little of my blue and black on my number 4 round. And where I know I'm going to need that darkness kind of under sails and things, I'll go ahead and start to put that in now. That way the space between sails, if you think about it, would be showing the sky behind it, right?
Yeah.
So I definitely want to catch that while I can. Just a simple thing. And then I want to kind of put in not the finished result of anything, but the start of the layout of things like my sails or any of the wood kind of coming up. I'm going to take a little black and yellow and some white. This will be my darker value of my sails, right? And then we'll light them. We kind of have to get them in right now. We have to get this basis in. So this is that gray. Curving that little stroke in. That's all right. We got some beginning of maybe sail. Curve that one in. Curve in this one a bit. This is going to really let us highlight maybe I'll get a little more white into it for the back sail. Got that laying around. Sometimes I'll find a color I've laying around from something else and I'm like, oh, hey, you'll work well. Come with me now. All right. This, believe it or not, kind of carries behind the little mast a little bit. And so we're going to just put it right here. Paint it in roughly. Exaggerate it. Because again, I can always come in with my darker gray and just paint that in. Into my lighter values I had over here, just waiting around for this moment. Looking okay. If I need to put any of my black and blue black, this is that moment.
This is a really cool boat. Ship.
Ship. It's a ship, apparently.
Ship.
I don't know. Ship.
I guess once you have enough people and enough sales, it becomes a ship.
Yeah, I don't really know what the metric for that is. I'm adding a little bit of blue on these outside edges just so we're really seeing them. Just part of the situation. I'm also going to start the boat. Ship. Put out way too much black. I don't know what I was thinking. So this is brown and black. It's very dark. It will almost kind of vanish into the background, into the rest of the sea, into sort of everything else that's going on. Number 4 round still happening. And then as I come around the side, I'll definitely be more in my brown than my black. It'll be recognizably brown, but still dark. I've got a big wave that's going to be splashing up my ship. It makes things super fun. That look good?
Yeah.
Carry that down, even past where I know my wave is going to be. Now, let's just say that's what you're going to get in right there. You get in just that, and we'll come back and start adding some more details on the ship. So I'm going to start putting in my sails. I have to get the sails in so I can put the bow of my boat in, and I might get some of the rigging in while I'm here. To do a lot of that, I like to use a T-square because it gives me a straight line, and the straight lines really help me make this look shippier.
Right.
Because I'm not, necessarily great at shipness. That's not, my organic skill set. I'm going to start with a dark color. And we come to just off the middle of the bow. And I'm going to give myself just kind of like a little bit of rigging up. And it's really, this is definitely challenging to get those fine lines. Just getting dark values that are well set for flowing. If I can freehand a nice top to the sail, I will. If I can't, I will pull my T-square into it. This back one definitely has one that comes out like this. It comes in. You need one too. Everybody needs one of these. I guess they hold stuff up.
Yes. They hold up the sails.
I'm going to bring a little of this out. That's lovely. The thing that happens there, bits of things. I think it's nice back here, even though we've got a wave and stuff crashing up, to kind of maybe talk about some hair down little netting things. I just add a little of that. It's a bit of fussiness, I know, but it makes me happy.
Little rigging.
Little rigging. Sometimes I need to use the ruler, even if I have that first line, just to make sure that the second pole is somewhat straight. Because otherwise, it won't be. Make sure I got that going. Now, there's a second little bit of rigging that comes here. I looked at so much rigging. So much rigging. I'm sure there are technical elements that maybe, are not there. And then it's fun to, I like little, again, bits of implied ropes. We just kind of imply that there's ropes. Little bits.
Little bit.
That you can see that maybe are tying things into other things. Just a bit. Because stuff apparently is always tied down.
Well, if it isn't tied down, it isn't staying on.
True that. Now, I'm going to come in and start to shape my sails. And the first part of my sail I'm going to shape is I've got my kind of gray, but I want a much lighter gray. Much lighter. And I'm going to come from the top of my sail and I'm going to curve down. Kind of like ribbed lines, if you can see what I'm saying.
Yeah.
They have a curve to them. Got a little crazy with that last line. That's okay. Coming back with more curved lines. But I'll make sure the top of the sail is a bit whiter. I need to bring some of my rigging back. And that does happen to me where I'm like, oh, I got to put my little rigging back. But I want to kind of imply that there's these ribs happening.
Yeah.
Across the top. Definitely pulling down those little ribs. Sail has ribs.
Yes.
This one I will paint actually quite a lot lighter over the gray. We'll do lots of interesting stuff with that. I just want those back sails to be brighter because they're in the what? They're in the light. There we go. That's not looking terrible. Once I have that going, I'm going to get some of my yellow and my cad yellow together. My Naples yellow and my cad yellow and some white. Because I want to give kind of a glow to some sails. A little more yellow. Add a bit right here. That's kind of nice. A little bit of a reflection. I'm going to kind of come through here. And in the center, kind of bring some little curved strokes where that feels more highlighted, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Doing its little boaty thing. Boats do boaty things.
They do. Generally involving floating.
Yes, very much the importance of float. A little bit of that yellow there. I like to get into my pink, Naples yellow, and a lot of my white. Unexpected, I know. I'm pulling a little bit of that sunset onto our sails. I don't know, I like it.
I like it too.
When the sunset is on the sails, I like it. And I might get a little yellow and a little cad red. Perhaps right here. Speak a little bit to that happening. Nice, right?
Yeah.
Lots going on. I've rinsed out. I'm going to take my cad yellow and a bit of red. More red. And make a little sail coming off. It's kind of like a little S curve, like a really distinct F curve.
Yeah.
And then he's got a little sort of implied one. I'm going to go right into my yellow and white.
highlight some of those wood riggings. Maybe a little bit on the inside of that sail. Get a little highlight on my little flags, right? There you go. They're good. So we're just getting that. And the last little touch for the sails, I'm going to take a little blue and a little black, blend them together. I'll make sure that I've got a nice shadow under my highlights. And let's pull down some ribs on our sail. That we can see. I'm going to pull these ribs down from the bottom, up from the bottom. I'm just trying to say, oh, there's a sail there and it's doing a thing. Look at that. That's where those are at. Last touch. It's the big pizzazz. One of the few places I'm going to grab some just white. I'm going to get a lot of it. Not purple, just white. Load it onto the toe of my brush. Highlight right there. Highlight between the little shadows on the ribs. There we go. That's the sails.
Wow.
I'm going to break the boat into 2 steps. We're going to come back and finish the boat. Make sure this is dry. And then I'll show you how to paint the bow and get that reflection of the wood going.
Seems good.
So here we are. We've got to finish out the bow of the boat. I'm going to get my T-square back out again because it's still a very useful tool for me. And I'm going to make sure that I've got kind of a straight line for what comes off where the dark and the light are shaded. So in this particular case, I'm going to get some dark color first. I am thinning on my number 4 round, getting on the toe, a dark line. I'm going to take it just, I got to get it just right. I got to get just above the sail there. Very important. And I'll take this kind of down here. And then we're going to take another little dark value, right?
Mm-hmm.
Inside here. There's another one coming off of here going across. You see those 2 dark values? And then once those are in, you definitely want to also shade kind of this part of the ship a little bit. Only some of it is really showing. Only some. Rinse, rinse, rinse. Now I've got to get some highlights going. And I'm going to get those with my orange. I'm going to take my cad red and my cad yellow, and I'll mix them into my burnt sienna. We're going to start to grab some more kind of finding center. We're going to start to highlight this little part right here where the sun has caught the bow. A bit of the boat. Same color across this right here. And a bit coming down. Not bad. So now we can kind of see that. I'll go ahead and get more yellow and more Naples yellow, making sort of a lighter value. And I think it's important that we, see this progressive uptake. I gotta get, it's very, you gotta get that lighter yellow going. That's what I'm looking for, John.
Yeah.
Starting to see it. Now, sometimes I've got to take some white and just a little yellow. Make kind of a very light, bright color. An interesting little highlight there. Definitely one here. One on the bow. One here. Always get into my orange when I need it. And then on this bit here, I can just get into my burnt sienna. Tap in a little bit of that wood, as you would. And then go ahead and get some white. Come right here in the center. How about a little reflection there? And maybe right across there. Bow.
Wow.
So we can really see it. I can always come back if I need to with my black thinned on my brush. And refine any of it that I need to if I need to knock it back. Now I'm going to dry that so I can paint in the ocean. So we've gotten a lot of great stuff done, haven't we, John?
Mm-hmm.
But this is really going to come together once the water is in, because otherwise it's just a floating boat in the sky, which is a cool painting, but isn't this painting. So we're going to take our ultramarine blue, our phthalo blue, and our phthalo green, and they're going to mix together to make a very deep aquatic color. I'm going to go ahead and just use my number 8 Cambridge. You could just use any bright you have. And begin brushing back and forth at first this very, very dark color. And come back here and do this as well. Now in this space right here, I'm even going to come in and darken this with a little bit of black. The idea being is that from here, right, in this space, the storm is so deep and so dark that you can almost not, see the horizon versus the sky versus the water kind of a thing. I'm going to go ahead and paint over the top of that wave so I get that good blend going. Put a little of that back. So that's a very important part to get. Now, once I start to have that going, I'm going to take a little of my green and blue and get a smidge of white. And I'm going to, right here, flick up some very light and far away smaller waves that are kind of crashing up. Can you see that?
Mm-hmm.
They're minor. They'll be a big deal. We need to have them. And that's why I like to use this kind of crazy scruffy brush, but whatever brush that you've got that will do this. A lot of this wave will cover that up, but we just want to know that that's there. I also like to take a little bit of this slightly lighter, interesting watercolor and pull it in a few places just because I think it's so easy to. I'll take some phthalo blue and white as well. Lose it as you go. Now, coming across here, a little more white, a little more green. Highlight a bit there. And then some coming down this center.
In fact, let's get a little of our Naples yellow into that mix. And maybe highlight parts of that as well. That highlight can come behind that little wave. Get up there. What? Couple values. So that's not terrible. It's important to come back with a very deep value, and I may switch. I'm going to go ahead and switch to my bright, my number 6 bright. Ruby Satin Bright. Could do my cat's tongue here. I just want a brush that gives me some control, and I don't want to use my round. I'm going to take a little of my black and blue and come in and add some deep pulling shadows to what is the water lifting.
Mm-hmm.
You can see how we're doing that. And even over here, swinging back and forth these deep wave shadows, because it would be deep. When the water is churning, pulling some blue in, grabbing some pure blue. When the water's churning, it tends to want to do that. Now, coming up the wave, and I'm doing this while it's all still wet because it gives us a nice blend, we're going to start doing the phthalo turquoise mix, which is phthalo blue and phthalo green together. And let's begin by pulling into the ocean behind us and going up, as you do. Here, I will be lower on the ship, pulling up. And I'm going to curl back, if you can see that. That's very important. So I've got this right here. I'm going to take a little of my Naples yellow light into this and maybe some titanium white. And come from the top, and I'm going to make some very interesting little sort of implied shapes. Peek it up here, kind of has like an arc. And then some of that might kind of come right there. Pulling that in and sort of blending it a bit. I'm going to get my brush wet. And while the paint is still kind of wet, I'll pull that color down.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Into my wave. The best part of this will be a very almost like light white. And I might even get some more Naples yellow into it. I want it to be almost, because when water gets backlit, it does some interesting things. And I don't want to lose it. I'm on the corner of my brush. And we'll need to do like one more there. But while I'm here, I'm going to go talk a little bit about some froth. Notice how I went up and sort of down?
Yeah.
That's a very important thing to do when you're doing water, is to speak to that. Here. Actually, I think, yeah, no, I'm going to switch to my number 4 round, and there's a reason why. Need a little more control. I'm going to take a little of my black and blue together and some of my white, because the sea foam over here would not be a bright white. I'm going to tap out some of these little waves. You know, say, oh, hey, this is where that sea foam is.
Mm-hmm.
Not terrible. More white as I'm coming forward. And I highlight the top of this. Maybe give a highlight there. Something happens there. Notice how I gave those? They're like, maybe a thing is happening.
Yeah.
Maybe a thing's happening. The white on the ocean kind of like lets us know when something's happening because it tends to froth and churn. Now I'm a little blessed. Gotten to see the ocean a bunch of times. So I'm really familiar with how some of this can go.
Mm-hmm.
Now that I've got that in, it's important that I'm going to come back with my blue and my green and my ultramarine. Make sure that I have water that isn't an even line across my boat. Because it won't like it.
Oh, okay.
Doesn't appreciate it. Final thing. A little, maybe cad yellow and the Naples yellow. A little bit of my most turquoise color here. Very much lightened. So much lightened. There we go. So much lightened. It still should be identifiably part of the water, but you do want to lighten it. That's always my dance. And I'll add water and make sure the improvement on the flow is good. Just brush that little curve in. You need to get into turquoise, you just get into some turquoise and blend that in on the toe. Not terrible, not bad.
Not at all.
Rinse, 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 rinse. And I may put out some fresh white and some clean water. And here is why my white's starting to dry. It's been out for a minute. I mean, it's a long painting session, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is why you shouldn't put out as much paint as I do. I just put it out for the purposes of the camera and you guys seeing it. So I'm going to put out some very fresh white here because I need to thin it. I'm going to go ahead and get that on the tip of my brush. You're just highlighting the top. Always get some of my color to blend in anything I've got. Always get some of your color to add drops or anything that could be coming out. And let's also, right? I'm going to make sure I don't have any weird random drops that want to sneak down my handle. Trying to get it on the toe. The trick of this is that it's got to be really on the toe of the brush. Just on that tip there. Tap that out.
You see how splashy that is?
Yeah.
That's how you get that wave that comes up the side of the ship and gives you that crazy splash.
Mm-hmm.
That fantastic?
It's a
All right,
very
that's
good
the end of that
splash.
step. We got that section of the ocean in. We're rocking it. As we go forward, we're going to continue to move the waves kind of coming forward. We've got a very involved wave here. We've got a nice roll here, and then some front chop here. I'm going to start out with my number 6 bright, just because it's very helpful little brush. I'm going to pull in some of my phthalo blue and ultramarine blue and my phthalo green, making my deep aquatic color that I can deepen if I need to with my black. And before this chop wave, this chop wave to even show needs to have a very dark value in front of it.
For
That's
contrast.
one of the
For contrast.
for contrast. And that's how we're going to see it, is the way that and waves are like this. We're not artificially doing something a wave wouldn't do. Waves will do this. But it's important that we get our deep values in. You can always pull things back. Then also coming up any swell or down low in the water is intrinsically often darker. If you guys can see that. I may even sneak in a little bit of my black into that just to make sure that we have the deep value required to really show the storm that's a brewing in this fabulous oceanscape.
Mm-hmm.
Just wonderful, fun stuff. Then we start to pull into some of our our turquoise colors, right? Our wonderful ocean turquoise colors. And they're the basic ones, and we can kind of see them with a little bit of white. They're not our brightest color, but they start to happen. Like say here, and I'll pull this wet into wet. Going forward, the stroke comes this direction. And you're going to definitely want to pull it up higher, as it was. Remember, we painted it out a bit. Finding that space of how that one goes. And then this color really is a lot of places, like it comes up, it starts to come up over here. We'll start to pull our swell. And this, interestingly enough, is sort of almost the dark value between the swells.
Yeah.
And I'm going to kind of focus this row of waves now. I'll build this row of waves last. Oh, too much white. Fixes, paint it out. Start the little corridor of light through the water. And wherever I've got to deepen it, come back in and be like, no, this is a dark section. This side of the wave is much lighter and has a bit more yellow cast to it. So I'm going to get my Naples yellow into that. And a little white, much lighter. And let's make sure that kind of has that beautiful shaping. You take that light value down here, and I'm going to bring it a little bit behind. And then this one I would take a little bit forward, if you can see. The other thing I've got, and I'm going to get a little more phthalo blue into it, is I've got this sort of forward across here. This wave has a barrel that this section is crashing into.
Okay.
I'm going to pull my white and phthalo kind of forward. It's a little different than that. The churn always is. So we start to see that. And if I want to speak to the top of it, what I do is I grab a little of my turquoise,
and a lot of my white. You can get your Naples yellow into it again. And we're going to come across the top of this and pull down. That's all we got to do there. How's that going? Waves. They happen. And I love them for happening. You know, it's very fun that they happen. Now, I'm going to get a slightly darker turquoise. And I'm going to make sure that this kind of part of the wave is not, it's still triangular, but I don't need it so straight edged. I will maybe kind of imply more of a shadow there. And where I need to, I definitely need to come back in all three. I want this much darker right here. You can see. Shading that interesting little triangle space as it comes through. Playful, playful, playful. Maybe just the green and a little ultramarine. And let's bring these through here. Bring the little colors through the little locations. I will pull like light highlights in here. I just want to make sure that I've got that first kind of shape going. I'm gonna get my Naples yellow and maybe even some of my pad yellow. Get a bunch of white into that. Let's come right here. Because this sees what? It's kind of in the face of the sun, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to highlight that there, coming down. Maybe even piece that out here. I also like to take a little of that color. Maybe that was a little much, but even a little more green right here. Just playing with the values. And this comes forward. I feel like on top of that wave, I like it to be kind of just because it's frothy. This one right here.
Okay.
I'm going to bring that light value up. See, I just bring a little of that in. And a bit here too. And I will start to speak to what's happening right there. I'm also going to come here. And in this space, I don't want it to be that wet though. I want it to be kind of like, there we go. Light for the area where it's at, but from on the corner of my brush here, and I'm going to be sea foaming. Without a splattering tool, mind you.
Just kind of building it up with the brush.
You build it up with the brush. I love my splattering tool. Don't have to have one though. Maybe a little reflection right here. Come over the top and get right into my white, dry brushed. Add a little seafoam to that. As you do. A little bit of that. Now we have that little wave. That looks pretty terrific. That's pretty wonderful. Guess what we got to do next? I'm going to put out a little more white so that it's there. We're going to add detailing to the foam again. You remember detailing to the foam? We're going to keep detailing that foam. Now I might grab a little of my cad yellow and come into this yellow, this white, and kind of grab one that kind of looks like maybe there's a little sunlight in it. And I will highlight some of these little areas. Make some of these little white bits that come up. They do all kinds of things. This little sort of wiggly sea foam. I'd like to continue that on over here. And just some of it I kind of hand paint out, right? Not all of it, but just some of it because it would catch a little bit. I'm going to get a little blue in it because maybe it's not as bright, but it's still bright right here. Get a little more of this. And even here, we're gonna, remember how we talked about those little sort of peaky lines that happen?
Mm-hmm.
Gotta put in some peaky lines. Put in some foamy lines. Foamy lines are always nice.
Yeah.
These are little bits of sea foam that got churned up that we might see coming up the face of something. There we go. Guess what?
That's looking pretty spectacular.
Painted that next row. We only have the front row left to do.
Oh, wow.
I think this is wonderful. All right, I will see you back for the next row of waves, and that will make us done.
Mm.
So here we are in the home stretch, John.
Mm-hmm.
And this is, for many people, like the ship storm painting. That's the painting, right?
Yeah.
That's like the painting that shows that you got there. And I'm hoping that you guys are just loving doing this. Now, we're going to get back into the same colors we've been getting into. So we've got some ultramarine and some phthalo green and phthalo blue, and it's making our phthalo turquoise. And we'll go ahead and, maybe work the base here with that color because it does help everything blend up as you would want it to.
Mm-hmm.
Because you do have a dark sort of area before on that swell before it rises up. And then, I can grab, we love that Naples yellow in it. But start grabbing some of these lighter values and let's talk a little bit about some water maybe coming through here that's zigging and zagging back and forth. That has some highlights. And then we can pull some of that down. Sort of into this space. You can see that wave sort of is starting to splashy up. What we're going to talk about. It's a little bit of the splashy up.
Now, this isn't the lightest of the blue-green colors that I'm going to have. I'm going to show you kind of an interesting thing that's going to go on. I'm going to take a lot of, I feel like white into my brush. Maybe a little more Naples yellow to kind of give it that aquatic green. And then here, I'm going to wiggle up, kind of creating that little ledge, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And pull that back. Sometimes I'll tap off on my water or towel to improve that. And then I can even come here and starting low, I start to froth forward. Catching those two waves that maybe got hit by a gust of wind, or I can pull some of that slightly lighter value through. And for sure, maybe a little bit right there, kind of coming down. It's all going to be frothy, but it's just nice to know that's there. I'm going to get a little more green. A lot more white. Similar thing. On the corner of my brush, I kind of carve that one out and maybe add a little splash there. You can see how the brush just creates almost that little splashiness, which is really lovely. And here at the top of this, believe it or not, it is also a little bit kind of churned. I like to put in some of these little lighter areas that happen. And that's pretty wonderful. It looks good. We have our values. I'm going to come in with my white. Okay, if it picks up a little of the yellow, I don't mind. I'm going to come right here. Just talk a little bit about some splashies. Painting some splashies.
Little splashes.
And sort of like these sheets of, it's like the water gets pushed up in these like sheets of water. And see, I just kind of talk about those, like, I want to show that the water is blown up almost into the air from the force of it. And then a few little turns of stuff that's happening here, because it would. Oh, and then you have little bits. And then the last little thing is you can kind of come along through the piece and a few places highlight some of what's going on. Just find those last little touches. I'll, include some sea foam. Guess what?
What's that?
We painted a ship at sea
That looks amazing.
in a storm. Not
That
for
looks
nothing.
Great.
Not for
No,
nothing.
it's amazing. And I like how you painted around the sides too.
I do. I like that it paints around the sides, and you can continue those on as much as you want. You can
You know, some people really get meticulous around the sides. Some people like me are like, some colors.
Mm-hmm.
Both answers are perfectly fine. I'm going to go ahead and get my light seafoam color. Load up. Come right here. Give that a sign. I am
Wow.
so, this was a piece that I was like, can we do it?
We really can. We did.
We can. Which means more stuff like this probably in your future.
Mm-hmm.
But we did this, and that's the big deal. I really want to thank you for the time that you spent with me today. I really love art. I love to share my passion for painting with you. I hope you enjoyed learning about the techniques and everything needed to create this ship. It's never fun to say goodbye, whether we've come to the end of this painting today, or perhaps you've joined me for all 30 paintings and this is your last one in the challenge. Either way, let's say that it's goodbye for now and that you're going to come back and paint again real soon. So be good to yourself, be good to each other, and I want to see you and an easel really soon. Bye-bye!